Hello, and welcome to the newest video weblog version of Deconstructing Phil. Now I need to warn you, not all weblog entries have happy endings, but this is sort of a choose-your-own adventure, because whether or not this ending is good or bad is completely up to you. But we'll get to that in a second. We're going to start today with a brief talk about metaphors. Metaphors, of course, are when you take two things that are separate and usually not seen as alike, and you compare them. You say that one thing is like another, or that in fact one thing is another, at least in some way. Now, there are many different types of metaphors. A famous example is, of course, the apple. This is actually a metonym for the post-lapsarian state of man and the biblical thought on good and evil and how man got into this ethical situation. But we can also deconstruct that and say that it has to do also with the historical oppression of women. I would like to do a similar analysis today, but we are instead picking a very unusual metaphor for a very unusual object that we are trying to symbolize. And the metaphorical object we have here is also a food. It is a crunch bar. Now, I'm going to theorize that a crunch bar can be a metaphor for crunch time, that 2 or 3 week period before final exams, where students who are, let's say, contributorily negligent toward their own education, where these students, and unfortunately I am myself included here, where these students have to do lots of work, lots of cramming, lots of studying, almost 24/7, every waking hour, so that they can indeed get good, passable grades. Now, we also see that when we're talking about any candy bar, that there is perhaps some way which that sort of alludes metaphorically to the law profession. Indeed, we speak of the bar exam. But in this particular scenario, I think that the crunch time, crunch metaphor can be seen in that we have little tiny Rice Krispie treats, of course, in a crunch bar, and we might imagine those as the 1L students, again, myself included, immersed, deeply struggling in the mire, the dark blackness, the very, let's say, bitter world that is 1L. And unfortunately, many also feel as though they're about to be eaten. And that is in itself, I think, an interesting metaphor. But I think we can imagine somebody like, I don't know, Slavoj Zizek saying something like, "This metaphor is stupid. It is, let us say, I don't know, it has no real. There is no real behind the metaphor." And to translate that to English, I think that we can have sort of this postmodern, post-structuralist idea that if we just buy a product, indeed this was bought from 7-Eleven, if we just take a already made product in this age of mechanical reproduction, as Walter Benjamin says, that there is something about that which is deeply impersonal and which doesn't really affect us on the level that metaphors are supposed to. And that is why, instead of just eating and bringing to our attention a crunch bar, tonight I'm actually frying, or I have fried, this crunch bar. Because we might say that, like the crunch bar, a law student, their brain is indeed fried somewhat during 1L. Now, well, I don't think we have anything left to do but see whether this creation is horribly grotesque or tasty and enjoyable. Well, it is certainly interesting, and it is certainly not healthy. And I think we could also say the same for crunch time leading up to the first examination for a first-year law student. And that is the real issue that arises and is the reason for this weblog today. And that's that, unfortunately, Deconstructing Phil is going on a writer's strike. That's right, we're closing shop for the next 3 weeks while I study and do what I'm really here to do, and that is pass law school. So, while that could be sad, and it could mean that there are no Deconstructing Phil entries for the next 3 weeks until the 23rd of December, I'm hopeful that Deconstructing Phil viewers and website readers out there will step up and will write in as guest bloggers. Now, I realize that that's not exactly some people's idea of fun, and there might need to be a little incentive to really get people out there writing and contributing and becoming part of the Deconstructing Phil team. And that's why Deconstructing Phil is offering this Deconstructing Phil Academy Certificate of Completion. Of course, it has absolutely no real value, but they're also not on the open market, so the only way to get one is by writing in. Also, there is in fact even a little entry here where you can get Dr. Phil's signature. We won't provide it, of course, but if you ever meet him and wrote in and got a certificate, I think it would be kind of a neat thing to have. But let me also say that in addition to the certificate of completion, we offer several other different certificates that you can get. But that's pretty much the whole reason for today and for this video weblog, that call for papers. I certainly hope that some of you will consider emailing me, and you don't even need to propose a topic, just watch an episode of Dr. Phil. If something philosophical or psychoanalytical or any sort of intellectual highbrow thing catches your eye, then just write a quick entry about it, a paragraph or two, send it to us, and you will get this lovely certificate in the mail. In fact, pretty soon we're going to be talking with the European Graduate School, and we hope to get accredited so that these will be counted as doctorate degrees as well. Well, I hope to see you all the 23rd as a law student who passed his exams, and until then, have fun with your theory and your Dr. Phil.